sat against a bluish wall. Lumi's back was arched with sunken eyes dripping shallow tears. A choking silence oppressed her whimpering breaths. Why? Why won't you wake up? Her eyes gleamed a silvery sorrow. Her small frame listened to the wind's echo popping throughout the hallway. I'm sorry. Lumi's body crumpled, wishing she'd forgo her promise of helping. I should have known. I would never have accomplished it. I'm Lumi, the weakest. How can I help? She said. You have been out for hours. You've barely moved. Wiping away strands of hair, Lumi's head lifted. Dried tears suffocated against her pale stare. I need to try, even if I can't wake him. Instantly, a loud ring echoed throughout the hall, cracking its walls. It was reminiscent of someone snapping their fingers, and Lumi was sure it came from another, possibly destroyed realm. Her eyes watched the ends of the hallway. What's that sound? Her sweat dripped. She returned her worried gaze to Uriel's body. His shoulders were lifted high and covering his ears. Light glistened in Lumi's eyes. Was he waking up? She thought. Suddenly, a groan echoed forth, scattering from the distance and overshadowing the incessant ring, which quickly died into a memory. The groan crystallized Lumi's tears and wet splodges into shimmery ice. The walls begged, wishing to flee the incredulous groan. Lumi noticed Uriel shiver as if stuck in a blizzard as he mimicked the walls. Lumi's ears perked up, relinquishing in the familiar if unknown reverberation. Lumi jumped toward Uriel, shaking his body in a slow, gentle rhythm. Attempting once more to wake his eternal slumber, she watched his slender build bellow in an electric jolt. His golden eyes peered slowly, staring blankly at the purple ceiling, its lack of detail almost mundane. Uriel lifted his head, imprinted by the stale pattern lining the floor, and he watched the endless hallway stretch around him. Realization stabbed his heart with a crooked-edged fury. His dream wasn't true. Tears welled, flowing down his expression. You can't be gone. You three can't be. Images of his family flashed through his consciousness. Screaming in agony, he collapsed into a whimpering pile. Lumi watched with shock, splintering throughout her body. How can I help? Lumi asked, her body questioning its memory of humans. She had never dealt with this, not with humans or gods, yet her mind kept insisting she didn't leave, that he wouldn't get out of this alone. Listening to the shallow mumble escaping his chapped lips. Worry quivered within Lumi's undeniable surprise, struggling to comprehend. Should I try? Am I going to fail? Like, always? Without warning, her body bolted, instinctively wrapping Uriel's shape in a tight warmth. What am I doing? Unbeknownst to her thoughts, Lumi's body deeply wished to help. A banjo-eyed glare entered Uriel's sunken face, hugging her back. He cried into her shoulder. I can't believe they're gone. Uriel's tears fattened, staining Lumi's blouse, as the groan ceased its grip, fading into an obscure thought. Am I supposed to live without them? Uriel nearly strangled Lumi with rain. His eyes were a storm, screaming to escape, wishing his dream was real. Uriel recalled the sweet blossoming roses from when he met his wife. That tingling heartache that never left sputtered as he stood, his form illuminated by the morning sky. His white uniform declared blindness on all who saw its reflective blare. His 14-year-old glare watched a red-haired girl with the perfect shape empty her locker. Uriel heard the whimpering whispers. Turning. His ears looked for the source, his eyes wandered back. But the school courtyard with its love for roses vanished into a murky hallway. He couldn't escape. Uriel cocked his eyebrows with a heavy breath, stuttering a knowing rhythm. Tears rapidly continued. Tightening her embrace, Lumi laid on his shoulder, a smile hovering beneath her closed eyes. I did it? She thought, trying to mimic Uriel's previous facade. Her tears collapsed. They're gone? Uriel watched Lumi's reddened eyes. They're really gone, he thought, feeling loose strands of cyan hair tingling his fingers. Hair? Did she? He thought, lifting the hair, his eyes shimmering at the strands. Why? You're awake! Lumi wept, weakening her shuddering embrace. I'm sorry. I should have been mindful. If I learnt about them, I wouldn't have put you in that state. I'm not sure if I'm even worthy of learning about them, about your family. Lumi turned her head, her eyes stuttered. Uriel slowly lifted his lips in an upward curl, a fake smile. Why care about worthiness? His eyes twinkled. If you want to know, ask. He dabbed his eyes. She ripped her hair out just to help. It's the least I can do, even if it hurts, he thought. Lumi's eyes blossomed. Who were they? Her eyes gingerly watched Uriel. He didn't care about my worth, she thought. Yuki and Lily, my wondrous girls. Uriel's form slunk to the wall, breathing hard and rough, an almost rattle. Rose, my precious tree, with her perfect smile. They had this beauty that would light up the darkest voids. Smiles, you'd be blessed just to glimpse. Shimmery tears cascaded down his face. I was only 22 when I was blessed with Yuki. I succeeded. My life was perfect, and then I was gifted with Lily. I hoped it would never... His eyes slowly turned to Lumi. His body ached as if it were set ablaze. If you saw them again, what would you do? Lumi asked, reminiscent of her parents. What would I... She thought with glittering eyes. Uriel's head raised, slowly, feeling the breeze against his skin, questioning an answer. He ignored the foul scent, but he envisioned the smell of roses. I would be unable to breathe from pure ecstasy. If I woke up to them, I'd cherish every moment, Uriel said. A wide smile curled upon Lumi's lips. That's beautiful. Her voice was tinged with a raspy joy. If I'd never visited his world, would they still be? She thought. Dead. I must bring them back. Lumi animated forward, almost unruly in nature. Her feet slid over the tiling like soap. Standing ahead of Uriel, an unsure glare was in her lazy eyes. Uriel, I'd like to help. If it is all right with you, help bring them back. Sure, Uriel said, his eyes flickering to an unkempt shape. Why? Quietly staring into each other's eyes, Lumi's mouth grew into shape. She readied her voice, but before her breath escaped her lungs, a splintering groan slammed through the hall, redecorating the walls with a fresh coating of ice, and once more it tore apart the manaless air. A sharp glimmer fought Lumi's sight. That's it, she thought, grabbing Uriel's arm and sprinting toward the breath. The mother, that's why he is here. That sound it must lead to her. The bricks that lined the walls were smudged away, filled by the clapper of footsteps and the mana squelching out from the book. Distance shrunk down the tunnel. Its endless expanse vanished as light exuded from its corner. Uriel's gaze was questioning Lumi, yet his body throbbed in tune with hers. Why are we running? He asked, as the walls lost their icy tint. You wanted to see the mother, right? Lumi's legs were energetic as they crept through, finding a glistering room bathed in dim light. They turned their sprint into a respectful stroll. I did. Uriel inched closer. A small joy grew on his face. The mother, if this works, I can see them again. Uriel thought, catching a glimpse of tacked papers strewed about. catching the warm air with their frigid shapes. They entered the room. Wow, Lumi said, breathing in the pleasant air. In the cramped room, they were doused with the lingering scent of ink and paper, with leaking parchment piles that dotted every surface except for a tiny bed, which was tightly wrapped into the corner, but it felt too large for its housing. Uriel stepped closer, seeing a buxom woman motionless in the bed's infatuating grasp, which made her seem tiny. Her raven-black hair swarmed her purple pajamas, which were spotted by cartoonish fireballs. Is this the mother? Uriel asked, raising his eyebrows. Why was Lumi so scared? He thought. She doesn't seem so frightening. She's asleep? Lumi thought, glaring at the mother and her nearly used-up mana. I wasn't sure gods, other than me, slept. Her eyes widened. Yes, Lumi said, barely managing to keep her breath steady. What do we do? Uriel asked, his pupils pleading that his plan wasn't for naught. I'm not sure. Lumi sat on the floor, her eyes closed and holding her breath. Guess we wait. Uriel rotated away, staring at an intricate spell formation scribbled across pages. That's it? He asked, gliding his tongue over his chapped lips. Seems, like it. Noticing a board straddled with pictures and lines, Lumi's eyes twiddled to the center where a photo of a cloaked figure hung. Their face was hidden except for purple eyes glowing amid their catastrophic backdrop. Lumi lurked closer, her eyes sparkling with streaks of nostalgia. I've seen him. I have. I told you. He removed my curse. He gave me my sword. That's them? They look fake. Almost edited it, Uriel added, ignorant of the sloppy eyes breathing behind. Do you know why they helped? He scanned the picture, its crimson hue birthing destruction. Suddenly, a groan popped. Walls shivered. Lumi swiveled, and she traced the source. Her eyes cried, begging that an attack was not charged. Uriel's mouth grew like he was trying to speak. Lumi's face bloomed with red embarrassment strewn about, mimicking the board she had just watched. She's snoring, Lumi thought, realization slapping her with a wet tuna. The groan is her snoring? How was I scared? Darting away. Lumi hid the streaks. I think he wants EGS. Dead. Lumi's voice rang like a squirrel. A content glare darted toward the snoring woman. Should I? Uriel thought, clenching his hand over his chest. Stepping closer, his eyes crept, scanning the mother's every detail. It always ties to him, doesn't it? Uriel sighed, returning to the board. It does? Lumi asked. Uriel dropped, instantly, obeying a silent order. A silent facade. Contorting into a stiff bow, he laid on all fours, the air warped to a still hum. Heavy and scarce. The devourer skin book's mana ceased, forgetful of its mana-drenched corpse. Lumi turned. Her cyan eyes glowed at the annoyed glare from the mother's awakening, darting her eyes through the dim ambiance. A million years too soon. My mana is still dry, the mother whispered, her purple eyes sluggish and dead. Mind bothering me? Why you're here? She asked, rubbing her eyes. I am Uriel Silver. I want to request a trade. I will give you my soul for my family's revival, Uriel asked. Sweat bubbled from his scalp. His eyes were welded to the floor. I have plenty of mana that you can use. Lumi's face was alight, her expression lingering with surprise. Why didn't he mention his plan? She thought. Slamming the ground with a squelch, the Devourer skin book regained its slithering mana. Why? Lumi whispered. Intriguing. The mother's eyes swung from Lumi's book to Uriel. Her eyes were a bullet. That is why? She swayed her expression toward Lumi, staring with saggy pupils. You? Uriel limped forward, his eyes a faint smirk. I will do anything, even if you do not want my soul. He spoke as if this instance defined his creation, with a conviction that ignored those surrounding him. Speak. The mother sighed. Such childish behavior to have woken to, she thought. I haven't even recovered from testing my baby. Wait, his name is Uriel? And he's with Lumi, the mother thought. He is that human Daex spoke about, whose family died to Ansgar. As much as I would love that mana you possess. The mother's voice was the bite of a snake. It would not be possible for me to resurrect them. Next time you ask for aid, make sure it is not linked to EGS or Ansgar. Uriel's heart dropped to the ground. Is that all? His heart swelled and a tear burnt his eyes. Are you sure? You cannot bring them back. What does Ansgar, what does he have to do with it being impossible? Uriel's breathing rapidly bled. What does he have to do with it? Uriel shouted. Wetness slithered down his reddened cheeks. The mother leapt away. Her eyes twitched under the scent of salt. He almost got my pajamas wet, she thought. A drowsy sigh bellowed from her lips. You're not worth answering, if that hurts. Cry elsewhere. Her words were a tangled sloth. Painted with water, Uriel was a doll forgotten by his puppeteer. Lumi, do you have anything? He asked in a barely hearable moan. Please. Uriel. Lumi's eyes bent down. Her thoughts swarmed, and questions of worth quaked. I promised. I promised, she whispered, shifting her sight to the mother. If you cannot help, would you tell us how we could? You wish to do it? The mother chuckled. You're not strong enough. You'd need to steal his family's souls from EGS. That isn't possible. Supreme gods couldn't do that, much less lower-ranked gods like us. You beat Abraxas. He is an upper-ranked god. Lumi stepped forward, twiddling into a twangy tone. A lower-ranked could win against the supreme gods or even someone like the elder god. I was promised by EGS, he will let me fight him. If I kill Abraxas, Lumi added. Will you help?